Hey, everybody, welcome to Think Business Live. Looking forward to talking with Shawn O'Neill. Shawn, it's great to connect with you. You're the CEO and founder of SpeedSense. You make websites go faster. And Think Community, we talk a lot about this show. I'm a business coach. I work with people and companies who are stuck and get them unstuck. This show is, like every show, is going to provide you some wisdom from Shawn to get you unstuck. And so, Shawn, I appreciate you coming on. The average person has an attention span less than a goldfish, 7 seconds. So we're 40 seconds into this podcast. It's, and grateful for anybody who's listening, now or later. Right. So let's talk about, speed. It seems like the more technology that is created, the lower our attention span gets. And so talk about the importance of being fast, specifically in your niche, which is website speed.
Yeah, that's a great intro. Thanks. I like the segue from attention span. Attention really is the critical currency of our age, that we're all, we can feel it being pulled. And then at the same time, most people, if you're in digital, are trying to get someone else's attention. That's right. Marketing 101. So for web performance as a subject matter, this is what we deal with. We help companies speed up their websites to earn more revenue, have a better user experience, better SEO rank. There's a lot of different consequences of running a faster website. And typically we do this with brands that have an in-house development team. So we help amplify their skill set with our cross-functional approach. Because speeding up a website, just to step back a bit, is like there's a little bit of development, there's a little bit of QA, there's a little bit of analysis, there's some prioritizing and project management and things like that. So we come with a slice of all of that, just so you don't need to upskill or to staff up a half dozen different roles internally. We tend to focus largely on e-commerce brands, but we've also done some SaaS products and some marketing sites. But for e-commerce, the correlation between speed and revenue is much easier to measure and create a model. Saying 100 milliseconds, what is that worth to us in terms of dollars? Because like you said, we're not even talking 7 seconds. It's like if something on your site takes 100 milliseconds longer than it should, the user's gone. They're off to Amazon, and Bezos is going to slurp up their wallet as quickly as you'll let them. So it's really
quantify that. I just want to go back for a minute. 100 million seconds. Quantify somebody leaving. Quantify somebody leaving your site. The cost of that.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, think about what we spend to get someone on the site in the first place. Imagine you're running an ad campaign for back to school, because it's pretty much that time now. And maybe you're a retailer and you've put $100,000 into AdWords and Facebook ads and Twitter and Instagram, whatever, right? You want to get people on your site. And if that site takes 7 or 8 or 10 seconds to load, you're losing a monstrous amount of that money. You're just pouring that money down the drain. Whereas if it loads in 1 second, you're a lot less likely to have people abandon their journey. And I'm sure as a user, we've all experienced, you click on something that looks interesting and you see a spin wheel or a blank screen and you're like, oh, forget it, whatever. Like your phone rings, your kids yell at you, anything. You're just, attention is our currency, and we can't be fickle with our customers' attention.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. You've talked about attention being currency. You've talked about, that is so true. I think it's, how do we stay top of mind? How do we keep people's attention? How do we not only, get somebody as a client, but get them coming back, right? How do we keep people's attention today? And so, when it comes to putting content into your websites and giving people a reason to come back, or, how do you keep their attention? How do you update your site when there's more data on it? Maybe it takes longer to download, but you're doing the data. What comes first, the chicken or the egg? Right? You're putting more to get them coming back, but then they don't want to wait the 100 milliseconds.
Totally. Yeah. Great point. I think what you're touching on here is something we talk about a lot. The fastest website is going to look like Craigslist and be completely terrible experience to use. Yeah. But there's a reason that Apple is all huge imagery, these engaging brands to excite people, to to get them engaged in what you're doing and motivated, and feel that stoke for, maybe you sell like backcountry skis, or maybe it's back to school, like we just talked about. The visuals, the video, rich content is critical in creating an engaging experience for the customer. And those two are at odds, like fast and a lot of stuff, a lot of content, a lot of beautiful imagery and video. Those two are at opposite ends of the spectrum. So we deal all the time with, we can't, I'm not going to enter a client of ours and say, make your website look like Craigslist, like strip out all the images and all the videos. Imagine the web we'd be working with. But there are ways to strategically prioritize which elements get loaded when. Because imagine visiting any web page. There's 50, we'll say, files that need to be downloaded to render what's on the screen, create, the DOM, which is like, let's try to explain it for just non-technical person. DOM is the nodes that make up the page. It's like the skeleton behind the scenes. So there's styling on that. There's interactivity. So imagine 50 files. The server kind of just dumps all those to your phone at the same time, or your computer. And some of those might be for something that's rendered in your footer. Some of those might be for something that doesn't get seen at all until you click on the page. So there's strategies for preloading the important stuff and deferring the secondary stuff. So we want to be really diligent for every page. What is the purpose of this page? What is it trying to accomplish? Why is the user here? Let's get that in front of them as soon as possible. And anything that's secondary, like maybe sign up to our email list, or write a review, or look at this other product, that can all be deferred and run later.
Yeah, I love it. It's you're talking about the priority, how to prioritize and be deliberate and diligent with what you're looking at and what your customers are looking at. And sometimes I think, people aren't paying enough attention to that. And so when you come in and you do an audit, right? Because that's one of the things you do. I think you come in, you do an audit of a website. Talk about, one of the, some of the things you're finding that are some of the biggest mistakes people are making with their websites.
Sure. Like an easy one that everybody's heard of forever is your images need to be optimized. So this is pretty straightforward. Maybe we'll use the example of back to school again. So there's a few big categories that things fall into. Often we get stuck, especially as like small to medium businesses coming up and like figuring out the tooling we need, adding plugins to do different parts of the experience. Often there's like, you'll rely on a third party to do that. So you'll go and find, chat widget plugin, and there's probably a dozen different variants of products that do something similar, like help desk type stuff, Zendesk, things like that. And then loading those third party resources, as in they're not your code, they're from another brand, can be done in a couple of ways. Like I say, prioritized or deprioritized, or delayed, deferred. And so the default implementation for most third-party scripts is say, get in front of the user as quickly as you can, because for that company that you're hiring to do a certain thing, they usually want attribution for traffic, for sale. There's a lot of battle for, we drove that dollar, or our plugin was responsible for that increase in conversion. And so to get that data, they need to be loading early, but that's often at the expense of the core experience that you're trying to deliver to the user. And so there are better and worse ways to load third-party assets. And often it's not the primary purpose of the page, because it would have been built into the page in the first place. So for most of your plugins, I would say load them later. That's pretty sweeping general advice for nearly anyone.
Yeah, I love that. I just want to read something because it's on your website, which I really like. SpeedSense directed our team to the metrics that mattered most. They helped us narrow down the dozens of metrics to the 3 that are most important to the user experience. By honing in on the right metrics, our developers are empowered to leverage their skill sets to solve the right problems. The reason I wanted to read that is because in business, we're always trying to solve problems, right? Our own internal problems, our clients' problems. And so, it's always good to kind of just get an audit of your website, see what's working, see what's not, get a third party opinion. And so I love what you're doing, and I think it's great. Ready for a quick speed round?
Can I touch on that one more time? Sorry?
Yeah.
Yeah,
go
okay.
ahead.
So you talked about prioritization a minute ago, and we talked about prioritizing files. A big challenge for our clients and in general for running a fast website is there are hundreds of other things that you need to do, like you just talked about. And we need a way to prioritize those, like what's the most important, most urgent work, and defer not important stuff. And when you have a site that's, there are dozens of tools to measure the speed that spit out 100 metrics across maybe 10,000 different URLs or pages on your site, that amount of data is impossible to prioritize. So we have a system for that. And I could, we aren't the only ones who do this, but you need a methodology for prioritizing even which things on your site to speed up, because there might be something that's really slow, but maybe it gets no traffic. And so we help with that, basically.
Yeah, good. I love it. Quick speed round. You ready, Shawn?
Let's go. Let's do it.
All right. Book that's had the biggest impact on you.
Let's see, the EMyth.
Great book.
It's a good one.
Yeah. I was just talking to somebody today who's a sophomore in college, and they said they just read that book and they just loved it just a couple hours ago. And it's such a great book. Best piece of wisdom you've ever received.
Oh, everyone has imposter syndrome at every level.
That's so true. I see that as a business coach. Yeah. It's like, and last question. For anybody, I see that as a business coach, all these people that I work with, from salespeople, manager to owners, CEOs, solopreneurs, fortune companies, there's some sliver of it in some piece of everybody's business.
You're always looking up at the next person.
Yeah.
No matter how high you are.
Finish this sentence. One thing everybody should do if they have not gotten their website audited is
visit SpeedSense.com. It's too easy.
There we go. All right, there we go. Tell everybody who your ideal clients are and how they can connect with you, Shawn.
Sure. Yeah. We work with e-commerce brands primarily, doing about 50 to 500 million annual revenues. Above that, typically teams would have an in-house department, like the Best Buys and Walmarts and Amazons of the world would have a team dedicated to site speed, and that's usually like $1 million team or more. So we offer a fractional approach to that. Below that, if you're doing like 50 grand a month on your site, keep it up. Website speed is probably not the most effective next dollar spent for you. I think there's some product market fit to be done there first.
Good stuff. Good feedback. Great thoughts. Think community. We always talk about, one thing that you can maybe take off the shelf that Shawn shared today. There was many, but one thing that that resonated with me, think community, is being diligent. Being diligent with intention of what you're doing, I think is critical. Shawn, I appreciate you taking time to be on the show. Think community, it's always good to give a tune-up and a checkup of your website, no matter how big or small of a company you are. Always make sure that it is an effective tool working for everybody who is visiting, and pay attention to what your consumers want and make sure it's easy for them to get to what they want. And I'll say this too, we really didn't talk about this, but make it very easy for them to buy from you and understand what you do. We didn't really talk about that, but that's also part of speed, is giving them direction on kind of where to go, what to do, and how to buy. So those are just additional 2 cents I'd like to share. Shawn, thanks so much for being on the show. Think community, if Shawn can help you, please reach out to him, SpeedSense.com. Shawn, any last thoughts?
Actually, feel full disclosure that positioning is a project we're currently undertaking at SpeedSense.com, because it's not as clear as I'd like it to be. Our process and tooling has evolved over the last year or so. So you hit the nail right on the head there. For me personally, it's like, we're not as concise in our position and our offer as we need to be. Yeah, so it's critical.
I can help you with that.
I'm sure you can.
All right. Have a great day, everybody. Take care. SpeedSense.com. Thanks all.
Thanks, bud.
Thanks.